AOC's town hall in Corona, Queens turned chaotic on Friday when she was met with protest and dissent from all over the political spectrum, both inside and outside the venue. So we have a lot of video to play here, thanks to our friend Jose Vega, who was in the chat earlier, thanks to our friends at the Indie News Network. We're going to play some of their footage that they got, and a couple of other clips as well. So first, let's just play a collection of protests regarding the Ukraine war and AOC's votes to continue funding the Ukraine war. This is our first collection of clips. This goes on for a little while, folks, because that's how rowdy and rough this town hall is. So let's get it started.
So next, we're going to go with
nuclear war with Russia. We're sending F-16. If we send F-16s, America on the verge of nuclear war. It's not okay. Are you going to stop this war? Okay, are you going to stop this war? That's my question. Are we going to?
Yeah, we know about the paper.
Yeah, we know about the paper. Why are you afraid of your constituents?
That guy really is the counter-protester. He gets up a lot.
Activity because it has been creating a lot of harm to foreign. I will share something.
You claim that you voted for.
And I will share something. I don't like that Republicans passed a $1.7 trillion tax cut on the wealthiest people in this country. I don't like that we continue to report our military budget. I don't like that we have enormous amounts of.
If you did not ask the question, it is not your turn. I thought you wait your turn. Freedom of speech.
You know, I'm surprised that guy didn't bring his cowbell. He forgot his cowbell home. That guy.
Forgot the cow.
Yeah.
I think
no
I
cowbell
saw him
tonight.
out there that day.
Yeah. That's my pension. I'm surprised the Republicans. You see here, what you're seeing here is the collapse of this social democratic movement. It's a sad thing to see because we were part of that movement for a while. But what you're seeing here is an entire movement just make a mockery of itself. And what you're seeing here is her support eroding to the point where people can hijack a town hall, and this is what it is. You're getting it from all sides.
You can't blame our guys this time.
No. Nope.
That is exactly why we use paper slips.
Is that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes to negotiate.
Second most in the United States. You're trying to go to war against Russia, and you're saying, oh, they're spending so much on the military.
You gave out white slips, boy.
Thank you.
I have a question right now. Why don't you and the squad have the ability to tell their supporters not to vote for Biden unless he concedes on ending this war? Why won't you do it? That's a lot of money you are sending to Ukraine. And you're talking about you're bringing money to your community? What about the war?
Academy, especially in the
She don't even want to answer the question. She is contributing to America's debt. You are contributing to America. You got a lot of blood on your hands, and you're going to have to answer to God one day. You're going to have to answer to God one day. Just believe that, girl. You keep clapping and smiling. You're going to have to answer to God.
Yeah, she was laughing and smiling throughout that. So you see a lot of protests on the Ukraine issue, but that's not all. Let's go to this guy here. This is a Cuban man who Jose messaged me because he knew we were going to cover this. He said, just make sure you make known that the Cuban guy is not one of ours. And I figured as much. But here
He's
he is.
undercover.
raising a different issue, but again, giving it to her pretty loud.
American citizens before migrants. American citizens. Hell. American citizens. Don't you touch me. Don't touch me. Get your hands off me. Where are you on the migrant issue? You're absent. American citizens. You're throwing veterans out of this country. Where are you? You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit.
Right. So
I said that the people are revolting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
They stink on ice. So that's inside the hall. All right. Let's hear a little bit what was going on outside the hall. This is reporting from Roger Meadows of Indie News Network. We had a Roger Meadows super chat us the other night. I'm assuming this is the same Roger Meadows. If it is, if you're here, take a bow. Good work here. He was outside with his camera getting the perspective of some others in the crowd. So here's a couple of people talking to Roger from INN.
About air conditioners and how to get a passport. She was not talking about the crime. 3 people got stabbed in Junction Boulevard on May 13th. She didn't talk about that.
Okay.
It's constant crime on the transit system.
Okay.
It's crazy.
What else were your concerns?
That's all the crime.
Okay.
The crime and then the migrant situation, of course.
Mm-hmm.
When we have our homeless Americans on the street, but when they come in, they just put them in front of them, which I think, like, where was this money for the Americans that are homeless?
No, I sat there and I listened to AOC talk a whole lot of nonsense about Republicans doing this, Republicans doing that. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't give a crap about the Republicans. What are you
Feel free to curse if you want.
No, I don't curse.
Liar.
I don't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So, I don't know. AOC says she's doing stuff. She sounds like a 2-year-old talking about economics, and then her supporters are being brainwashed to do this for some odd reason. All you gotta do is pick up a book and read. Shout out to Thomas Sowell. He's a real one right there. That's all she gotta do. And all she's doing is rocking these people to sleep.
I agree with you with everything except for the Thomas Sowell part.
All right. So obviously Thomas Sowell is a very prominent black conservative intellectual and author. And so that's INN's reporting, getting the points of view of some people outside the hall. And now, of course, we're going to go to a friend of the show, Jose Vega's footage. He's not in this himself. You see his friend Kynan, who we've interviewed on the show as well. They were not even allowed in because AOC and her staff clearly know who they are by now, and they didn't want any part of them. So here's Jose and Kynan being denied entry to the show.
They probably ended up feeling like we should have let them in because what we ended up with was so much worse.
Right.
Than
At least if
anything
Jose stood
done.
up and did it, people would have felt like, well, I guess we can't top that, so maybe we should.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
He'd have showed them up. Right. Instead, they had, a bunch of guys give it their best shot. And some of them did quite well. But here's Jose and Kynan being told, no, you can't come in.
Well, why can't he go in?
I'm telling you can't go in. That's why.
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you they can't go in.
So he's not allowed in?
Yes, he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in. That's what a democracy we have here. No, can't come in. Kynan actually is in AOC's district. He actually lives in AOC's district. So he is actually a voter. Let's just play this one more time.
Can't go in. That's why.
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you they can't go in.
Okay.
So he's not allowed in?
Yes, he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in.
Why?
I don't have to give you a reason. I'm telling you he's not allowed in. So that's the reason. You want to hang out here? Thank you.
I don't have to give you a reason why you can't attend a public town hall with your congressperson. Fuck you. Fuck you. This is America.
Kind of ridiculous to me. They're not giving me any kind of reason whatsoever. They just escorted me out. I registered for this. I'm a constituent, and they're not allowing me in.
Unfortunately, I do not personally make the rules. It's their event, and
I don't make the rules. I just shoot people who don't follow them.
You can wait over here for now. Maybe they'll change something.
No problem.
All right, So they were cool. They waited. Now, okay, this is interesting. So Jose posted this to his Twitter afterwards. This is him getting confirmation from a friend of his that AOC and her staff, in fact, did know who they were and made sure that they weren't going to get inside the building.
Wait, okay, so just say that, repeat that again. I'm recording this now. So you were at the event, right, and you were in line, and then tell me what you heard the security say.
One of them said he was going to go downstairs and make sure that certain people that didn't come in that weren't supposed to. And they said, one of them said, oh, yeah, we already got one of them. And then they said, well, did you see the other one? They said, yeah, he left too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So there's the scene at the AOC town hall. This is what happens when you do not go to bat for the movement that put you there, right? Notice you don't see Shama Sawant getting shouted down like that at her events. Because number one, okay, her constituents don't feel betrayed by her. Number two, you know, any right-wingers who want to go and troll her event understand that they're going to be schooled, right? I mean, they're going to be owned back. AOC can't do any of that. AOC doesn't have a response. You saw, because what response is there? That guy who said, this is my pension going out the door to Ukraine. Her response is, well, you know, the Republicans shouldn't have cut taxes. Like, it's just so old and hackneyed. It's the same shit we've been hearing for 30 years. And whether that's true or not, and of course it is true, Republicans cut taxes for rich people. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. You, at the end of the day, cannot defend your support for billions, hundreds of billions of dollars out the door to Ukraine during the debt ceiling negotiations now, which we're going to get to in our next segment. You can't defend that. You can't defend that from any point of view. That's why the left is on your ass about that. That's why the right is on your ass about that. And you have no position, and you so clearly have no confidence in your position because you know that you're just going along because it's too difficult not to. And so you have nothing to say. So you come back with this awfully stale talking point about the Republican tax cuts. That's why you have so many examples of people shouting you down at that town hall. That's why you're not able to fill the joint with your supporters, because you have an enthusiasm problem. And the people who are filling that vacuum are people who are pissed off at you. And they include, yes, Batista stan anti-Castro reactionaries. They include, you know, conservatives. They also include a lot of anti-war left people. I saw some people in the chat saying that Cuban guy was a plant or a CIA. No, listen, believe me, I don't agree with them. There are a lot of right-wing Cubans in this country. That's well known. So not everyone is a plant. That's a real sentiment that exists.
Well, we were going to do this story. I guess other things came up. So Eric Adams, in his wisdom, sent some of the migrants to Williamsburg. And for any of you from around the country who don't know, that is like sending them to West Hollywood, or that's like sending them to Palo Alto.
Right.
I mean, this is sending them to this very hip, upscale area. And
full of like young, rich, white progressives.
Yeah, that is Lib Central. And guess what? They weren't having it. They protested because they put the migrants in a school gym, and it's a safety issue. And now you, whatever you think about this issue, you are not going to fucking tell me that if they had video of a bunch of people protesting in Texas because they were putting migrants in the school gym and it was a safety issue, you are not going to tell me those same fucking people would not have been calling them racist.
Right.
So that guy, it may be a Batista or whatever, Batista stan. You got plenty of people like this in New York now because they're doing things.
He said that guy killed JFK. that was Ted Cruz's father, that guy.
So there are a lot of people in New York State who are pissed off about this. And yes, it's a total NIMBY thing. This is why I've said from the beginning, whatever you believe about immigration and borders, whatever your beliefs are, this was one of the greatest political trolls in American history, because the outcome was never in doubt to me that their point would very quickly be proven. They wanted to show that if these cities that call them racist and retrograde, if they had to deal with a taste of what border cities deal with, they would go crazy. I mean, if anything, their behavior is far worse because they're dealing with far less, with a far greater population to absorb these people. So what excuse do you have? There are 8 million people in New York City, and we can't handle it. But we're going to call El Paso racist when they complain about the fact that they're overwhelmed and their city services can't handle this. New York can't handle it, but El Paso can. That was their point. That was why they sent them to New York and to Chicago and to DC. And whatever you want to try to squirm your way out of it by saying, well, it's using people as pawns. Okay, well, AOC didn't use these people as pawns because I haven't seen her at the border once since Biden got elected.
Right.
Fucking people burned to death in a facility, man. That didn't bring her down there. It's not like there haven't been any horrors down there. Right.
She now, that facility was in Juarez, just to.
It was on the other side. I know.
But that's a result of the logjam at the border.
But it's a result of the policy.
Right.
You haven't gone down. Still kids in cages down there. You haven't gone down there. I haven't seen you crying down there.
Well, that's why they were crammed into the Juarez facility, because the cages are full. We don't have room in our cages. I'm sorry, facilities under Biden. Their facilities under Trump, their cages. Now. Right. Our facilities are too full, so they get turned around, and they end up overcrowding these south of the border migrant centers, which don't have even the, I mean, this sounds like a stupid thing to say because of the way we treat migrants, but their standards for those cages are even lower than our standards for our cages, right? I mean, you talk about splitting hairs, right? But whatever, for what it's worth, they overcrowd those.
It's like the
detention
Victorian
centers.
Zoo down there.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's how you have, a situation like that. And worse, you have migrants living on the streets in a lot of these Mexican cities because they have nowhere to put them. And they're just living lives of poverty.
I've seen migrants on the streets here now.
Yeah.
I've seen migrants on the street. I've seen people with signs that they're migrants, families out on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, yeah, no. Right. So from a humanitarian point of view, the crisis now is far worse than it ever was under Trump when she was at the border crying into the fence when the cameras were on. Far worse. It's not even a contest.
So I'm saying this, it's easy for us because of his cultural signaling to say, oh, he represents some lunatic fringe of right wingers. No, that guy represents a lot of people in New York City now who are being impacted by this. And you got elected by people like me who went out campaigning for you to overthrow the establishment. Those of us who didn't flee the whole movement after Sanders endorsed Clinton, who decided we needed to do what the post-Goldwater Republicans did and build the power from the inside. And, I was one of those people. And you sold us out in 5 seconds. In 5 seconds. What were you there, a year? Before you just completely flipped on us. So look, I mean, once a Democrat gets into office in New York, you fucking can't get them out with dynamite. So I wouldn't count on her being voted out, although these are very strange times. She certainly won't be voted out by a Republican. I mean, maybe a Democrat gets it together to pull what she pulled, and there's such animus towards her that maybe that could actually be done, which would kind of be sweet justice. My question is, does she start taking the corporate money now? Because I don't see how she's going to raise money for a campaign. Who's going to donate? There's no grassroots base to donate to her anymore.
Yeah, but it's still, she's still the most famous member of Congress. This is part of why the two-party system just has to go, is because once a person like that is in there, it's almost impossible to get them out. And the people who are red-pilled about AOC by this point would not bother primarying her because we're under no illusions that whoever primaries her wouldn't turn out just the same. She replaced Joe Crowley, right?
Well, the only reason I would give that some chance is pissed off former supporters joining forces with what Republicans you have there.
All right, well, how about this? What if RFK primaries AOC? What if he moves to Queens, You know,
I will support that campaign.
Loft near Silver Cup Studios.
Zach, I think we've got a deal.
Astoria. Yeah, that's the deal.
Let's pitch this to Zach.
We'll pitch this to Zach. Okay, President, no. You can move to the Bronx and primary AOC. There you go.
You know, I give tours of Harlem. I always talk about this. You know, because most of the people who take that tour are Europeans, because the element, if you travel around Europe, I have found the element of American culture that fascinates them the most is African American culture. That's what they're really fascinated by. So the whole Harlem tour, it's all white as chalk Europeans take that tour. And I talk about Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He held the congressional seat in Harlem from 44 to 70. And then Charlie Rangel, that corrupt old fuck, held that seat for 46 fucking years. He was in there from 1970. You read Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 72. He's writing about Charlie Rangel's first campaign in that book. He was there. He didn't retire until 2016. Then Espiat got in. And yeah, it's partly demographic shifts. Harlem used to be 90% black. Now it's 60% black. But it's also because nobody credible ran. There was a guy, I don't even remember his name. He was like some Clinton carpetbagger. He had done some work in the administration. Nobody knew him. And Adam Clayton Powell IV, actually, his grandson, but he was running a vanity campaign. Nobody knew him either. So Adriano Espiat got in. It's the first time Harlem's not represented by an African American since 1944. But now that he's in there, I mean, look at the career of his two predecessors. I'll be dead before Espiat is out of that fucking seat. And yeah, sadly, it's probably the same thing with AOC.
Please clap.